It's very serious. It's very serious.
Stand up, fight back! Stand up, fight back! Stand up, fight back! Stand up, fight back!
Stand up, fight back! Muslims are under attack! What do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
What do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
Guys, it's 8 minutes till we start the official march thing and the rally stuff. And you guys, as the Melbourne uni folk, just coming in with a bit of march energy, because that's what you're all going to be doing later on. Together we're going to go for a bit of a march down the street and back to let everyone know that anti-fascism goes where it wants in Melbourne, and that the fascists will always lose in Melbourne. Am I right? This city belongs to anti-fascists, and you know what I'm saying to everyone out there who hasn't joined the rally yet? It doesn't take much to be an anti-fascist. All it means is you're not a fascist. It's quite simple. It's not a radical thing. You don't have to put on a mask. You don't have to run around throwing anything at anything. You just got to look at a fascist and go, fuck that guy. That's it. That's all it says. That's all it says.
It's very, very shameful what happened in Christchurch in New Zealand. As I'm Muslim, I'm feeling so sad and so bad for all the Muslims who died on other day. It's not good, and we are Muslim, but we are not terrorists. We not support any racism or anything. No, I never felt any racism in Melbourne. In Australia, I've been here like around 10 years, like 7 to 10 years, and never ever felt any racism here. Like as a Muslim, I never felt anything. So it's quite hard for us to get to know these things, what happened in Christchurch, and I wouldn't allow to happen anything in Melbourne or Australia as well. Yeah.
But every time they have a little stupid party like Fraser Anning tried to have on Saturday, some of us are there, whether we're out the front yelling at him, or whether we're just dropping a smooth googie egg right on his noggin.
I think the attack has got nothing to do with the Muslim community. It's an attack on all of us, regardless of religion, regardless of what you believe in.
It's just an attack on humanity. It's a place of worship. I don't think it should ever happen. It should never have happened in the first place. And
I mean, we should all be able to live happily in harmony. Everyone from different faiths, different backgrounds, feeling comfortable and safe where they are. At the end of the day, we're all human beings. We've made Australia, New Zealand, places around the world our home, so we should all feel safe there, regardless of what we practice as a religion or who we are or our culture or background or anything.
Fraser Anning!
Get stuck!
Scott Morrison!
Get stuck!
Pauline Hanson!
Get stuck!
Corey Bernardi!
Get stuck!
Fraser Anning!
Get stuck!
So when you say stuffed, really put some sting in it. Fraser Anning!
Get stuck!
Fraser Anning!
Get stuck!
Pauline Hanson!
Get stuck!
Tony Abbott!
Get stuck!
Oh, make some noise, Melbourne!
This demonstration has been organised by the Campaign Against Racism and Fascism in response to the horrific shooting in Christchurch, the white supremacist terror attack that took the lives of over 50 people. And it's amazing that every single one of you are standing out here today in solidarity against Islamophobia. This land was stolen, it was never ceded. And so to deliver a welcome to country, we've got Ron Jones from the Wurundjeri Council.
Womanjika Kundi Bek, everyone. Could I give everyone to say Womanjika? Come on, you just make more noise than that before. Womanjika. That's a bit better. Look, I'd like to acknowledge any past and present Aboriginal people that may be here and emerging elders and future elders, but all people of all different races here tonight, because we're all elders, and we within the Wurundjeri pay our respects to all people from all nations, because that's the way of our life. And a welcoming is to bring people onto country and share your country with them people. And what happened to them people in New Zealand, it's been happening to our people for over the last 200 years. And it happened, and things that we can really feel for them people what happened. But it's good to see all people coming together and fight for a cause. So I remember though, one day when we be known or recognised as first people of this nation, it's up to all you people here to count us and look after our history, because we are the first people of this country. And we're very proud of our history. So remember that. Because a lot of them politicians up in Canberra still don't want to ever see it happen. You know, so look, enjoy the rest of the night, and it's good to see all the people come together to fight against racism, because it's a terrible thing. And my mother, because we know how it feels for all people, Muslim people and all people, it don't matter where you come from, whether it's Indian, Muslim or what, we know, because our people have been going through that for the last 200, 300 years. So have a great night, and thanks for having me to welcome the country. Thank you, Tom.
Always was, always will be Aboriginal land.
Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land.
We should have a minute of silence to remember all of the people whose lives have been lost in an act of white supremacist terror, or the lives that have been lost because of our racist climate. So I think we should be silent for a minute, and then we'll move on to the rest of the speakers. Thank you very much. I think maybe we could start off with a bit of a chant. So, no racism, no war. This is what we're fighting for. No racism, no war.
This is what we're fighting for. No racism, no war.
I want to say that I'm hurt. I'm broken. There's nothing that can bring me back to reality. I cannot believe what happened, but at the same time, I saw it coming, because of all of the things that the politicians were saying. It hurts because as a Palestinian, you're not recognized as a refugee all over the world. You're not given that status. And therefore, you come to a country like Australia because you want that safetiness that you are not able to find anywhere else in the world. You try so hard to integrate into the Australian culture. You learn the language. You learn the culture, you do everything you can do. And then now, you're not able to go to your mosque. You're not able to pray in peace. While I'll be in the mosque, I'll be looking around to check if I am safe. This is what that terrorist has done to me. There is nothing in the world that can take that pain away from me. But we will not let him win. I have been overwhelmed with the love that I've seen over the past few days. At work, at university, my friends, everybody. The messages, them coming to see me, everything that they have done. My message here today is that we will never stop going to our mosques. We will never do that. We will never let that terrorist tear us apart. We will never let him stop us loving each other. And we should all stand up here again and say, we will not let any politician tear us apart again.
As we all know, 50 people have been mercilessly killed and more critically injured during the Friday prayers last week. As many of you would know, that Friday prayers is a weekly ritual that Muslims do every week. So the perpetrator in this case knew exactly what they were doing. He timed himself, and he knew exactly that these people are going to be defenseless, and they were an easy target. He killed them in cold blood. On the positive side, the Islamic community and the Islamic Council of Victoria has received so much love, so much solidarity, and over the last 48 hours, I have never ever seen anything like it before. For those who attended the open mosque They opened mosques yesterday. 22 mosques across Melbourne opened the doors and welcomed people, and literally tens of thousands of people attended the mosques. I visited 3 mosques. I could not enter through the door from the numbers of people in it. What happened in New Zealand was a terrorist attack, and the murderers are terrorists, even though they are white. Some described what happened as unprecedented, and indeed it is unprecedented in magnitude, but it is not unprecedented in ideology. Muslims, and particularly Muslim women, suffer every day from hatred, racism, and vilification in public spaces and on our public transport systems. Fraser Anning released a statement that you would have all seen by now, most popular, essentially justifying the terrorist attack in New Zealand. He said, and I quote, what it highlights is the growing fear within our community, both in Australia and New Zealand, of the increasing Muslim presence. This, my brothers and sisters, is hate. This is ignorance. This is lack of humanity. That is what Muslims deal with on a daily basis. People like Anning sit on our parliament with his far right-wing friends and legislate for us.
So, on behalf of Victorian workers, I proudly want to say that these Nazis should just fuck off. You know, how the fucking Sunrise, promote someone like Pauline Hanson? How does Sky News put on someone like Blair Cottrell? For Christ's sake. Not to mention the litany of terrible presenters from Sky News After Dark who fuel this stuff. How can groups like Qantas and Melbourne Airport and train stations show a station like Sky News? Shame on them.
Adam Bandt, the Greens member for Melbourne, so please make him welcome.
This was an attack on all of us, from people who believe that the colour of their skin makes them better than everyone else, and all of us stand here united to say that that kind of racism and white supremacy has absolutely no place in Melbourne, absolutely no place in Australia, and we will not rest until it is buried. But perhaps the thing that has been hardest to hear as I've spoken to Muslim sisters and brothers over the last few days is how many have said, well, yep, we're actually not surprised, or we were expecting something like this. No one should have to expect something like this. This should not be something that people aren't shocked by because it has become normal to them. But you can see how easily over the last decade or so, last couple of decades, this has become normalised in Australia. We saw it when Pauline Hanson was elected to Parliament and began her campaign of racism and division. And we saw it when John Howard's response to that was not to distance himself from her, but to co-opt fully all of her policies and make them the policies of the government. We saw it when Andrew Bolt penned columns headed the foreign invasion and talked about the difficulties that happen supposedly when people come here daring to think things that are different and have beliefs that are different to us. We saw it when Sunrise gave Pauline Hanson a regular platform to spout her program of racism and division every day. And good on you, good on you, host of Sunrise, for standing up and making the point that, geez, doesn't the Shooters Manifesto in Christchurch read a lot like One Nation's manifesto? Well, yeah, duh, Sherlock, and maybe that's the same manifesto you've given her a platform to spout for every week for the last couple of years. Now, you share some responsibility in this. You share some responsibility in this. And the people who thought it would be a great idea to invite a global far-right commentator to come and sit in Kensington at the doorstep of the flats in Flemington around the corner from me, where 50% of the people there identify as Muslim, and have him give a hate speech as part of his hate tour, and then wonder why kids in those flats felt scared that night as racists and fascists chased them through it. You bear some responsibility for thinking that was a good idea for allowing someone like that to come here. And Peter Dutton, when you say that maybe it was a mistake to have allowed Lebanese Muslims to come here and say, I'm just airing that as a proposal to chuck out there into the mix, or when you think it is an okay idea to try and win votes by saying what people in Melbourne are worried about going out because of African gangs, well, you bear some responsibility for all of this as well, because you have tried to use fear and race and division to win votes, and this is the consequence of that climate that you create. And we warned you about it at the time. We warned you about it at the time because we have seen here in Melbourne a young Sudanese man being beaten to death by people who said that they were here because they wanted to take their city back. And we have pleaded with you, Peter Dutton and Scott Morrison and everyone else in a position of power, not to use race and Islamophobia and fear to win votes, because we know where it ends. But you did not listen, so you bear some responsibility for creating this climate, and we will hold you to account. And Fraser Anning, you have no right to be in the Australian Parliament because you are associating with white supremacists. You are seeking to undermine the very fundamentals of democracy. And 1 million Australians and counting no longer want you in the Parliament because they know you do not believe in democracy. You want to turn our country into something approximating a dictatorship where people are classified and sorted on the basis of their race or the basis of what they believe. And we know that you, Fraser Anning, stand for trying to kick people out of this country, and that is why the Australian public wants to kick you out of Parliament. Can I also say, Scott Morrison, you do not get to wash your hands of this, you hypocrite, because all of this happened under your watch and with your blessing. And when you could have taken the opportunity over the last couple of days to stand up, as we have seen not that far over the ditch, where, you know, I'm sure half of the Liberal Party is still suffering shock because they've seen what happens when a leader is compassionate and stands up in the form of the Prime Minister of New Zealand. But Scott Morrison, you could have taken the last couple of days to say we are going to reset debate in Australia in the way that the people of Australia so clearly want. But no, he's out on the front page of the paper today saying, I'm still going to come at it from another angle. I'm going to come at it in coded form, and I'm going to talk about the need to limit population growth, and I'm going to talk about the need to restrict migration, because he's learnt that that's the way of saying the loud part quietly. Fraser Anning's mistake, as far as those white supremacists were concerned, was that he said the quiet part loud. Well, now Scott Morrison has learnt nothing, but he is going to try to continue a campaign of fear and division. And so, Scott Morrison, we are going to hold you to account as well. And we cannot wait, because it is only going to be a matter of weeks before you are turfed out on your ear for using the politics of fear and division. This is a very, very hard time. And to all our brothers and sisters who are being hurt by racism and Islamophobia and the growing fascism in Australia, we stand with you. But this is also the beginning of the end of racism. This is the beginning of the end of the politics of fear and division. This is the beginning of the end of white supremacy in this country. The Australian people have now worked out that it has become far too normalised in this country, what the consequences are. We will make sure that your politics of fear and division is never welcome in Australia. Scott Morrison, we are Fraser Anning, Peter Dutton, we are coming to take that dog whistle off you and bury it forever.
Fraser Anning, blood on your hands! Scott Morrison! Blood on your hands!
We need to identify when extremists who are given the protection of parliamentary positions like Senator Fraser Anning are used as shields by mainstream politicians. While they declare things that are obtuse, other mainstream politicians, as we have seen in previous statements made by other speakers, get to dog whistle. But with that dog whistle means that they're structurally denying people who should have equal rights in this country, and we need to be aware of those distraction methods.
Racism want to divide us as a nation, and we have to stand strong as one. They want to normally divide to rule, and we have to say no to the people that want to divide us. A good example is everyone going to work like in Melbourne, from different background, from different race. Our people, especially like in the picket line in 51 Philo Drive in Somerton, from different background, Islander, Muslims, Christian, Jewish, Indians and Asian. That's a good example of unity. Another point I would like to raise is that religion doesn't have anything to do with racism. Religion is the way you act and behave, either at your house or here or in public. So there is nothing that linked religion to racism.
Well, I just wanted to start this speech by reading a few of the names of the people who were murdered by white supremacists on Friday. Mukad Ibrahim, Sulfreem Sia, Heba Sami, Sayad Main, Khalid Mustafa, and there's 45 other names who are not on this list, but I think that we should remember. I think it's important because I woke up today, after reading all of the news about Fraser Anning, essentially saying that actually the people who we should blame are Muslims, that it's Muslims who we should blame for the white supremacist violence that we see in society. Shame! Shame! And the response of that was Scott Morrison this very morning, after we have seen the suffering of Muslims everywhere. His response was not to condemn Fraser Anning. His response was not actually to stand up against white supremacy. His response was to say, we are going to cut 30,000 more immigrants from being allowed to enter this country. Shame! Now, you would think that there's an opposition in this country that maybe, just maybe this time, the Labour Party would actually do something about it. But what was Bill Shorten's response? His response was, yeah, I actually agree with that. Shame. And I think that this is actually what highlights politics and really what defines politics in this country. And it is one where both the Liberal government, the Labour Party, they're all complicit in instigating racism in this country, in implementing Islamophobia for their own political gain. It is people like Scott Morrison, like Peter Dutton, who facilitate Fraser Anning having his ridiculous speeches in Parliament. It is actually Liberals who voted with Pauline Hanson when she put her motion that it's okay to be white. What kind of message is that sending to people? That Islamophobia is fine, that racism is fine, and that that's how you should act, which is a shame. Now, I think one of the things that we need to highlight, though, is that people like Fraser Anning are clearly not alone. We saw Fraser Anning when he had his media release, where hero Eggboy egged the fuck out of Fraser Anning. Yeah, awesome. But the thing that happened next was Eggboy being put down on the floor by homegrown Melbourne fascists. Now it was people like Neil Erickson who was charged with inciting hatred against the Muslim community for doing a mock beheading in Bendigo that was there holding him down. Shame. It was people like Andrew Nolch who defaced Eurydice Dixon's memorial, who was there holding him down. It was Bluebeard, who is a known misogynist and fascist population that was there supporting Fraser Anning. Now, it's important because this is not an accident that those people were there supporting Fraser Anning. It is not an accident that they feel like they can have a megaphone in Parliament to spread their message of hate, of white supremacy. That is actually what every single politician in Melbourne does, and every single politician in the Liberal Party and the Labor Party do by not standing against Islamophobia and by not standing against racism.
We need structural change. We need less racists in Parliament. We need more education, more dismantling of white supremacy in everyday life.
Muslims are welcome here, no hate, no fear. 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 Muslims are welcome here, no hate, no fear.
As a Muslim who's in touch with the community and who knows what's going on, none of this has surprised us. It was just a matter of time until something like this happens. As all speakers have highlighted in this second demonstration, talking about the Islamophobia rhetoric that has been carried out by mainstream media and politicians, starting from John Howard to Turnbull to Scott Morrison to that piece of shit Fraser Anning and the idiot Pauline Hanson and all of these racist politicians. This attack will happen again. It will happen again, and it's just a matter of time.
Muslims are welcome here. No fear. Muslims are welcome here. No hate. 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 No fear.
We've come here to support our fellow Muslims who have been killed in New Zealand. We'd like to send our deepest condolences to their families and to everyone who's lost someone they've loved.
To all our brothers and sisters who've been through so much because of racism, and it's not right.
And it's so good to see all the unity here. People of all different religions, all different races have come to show their support and show their love, and this is beautiful. This is the country we need, and this is the country we deserve.
And there's more of us. It shows us, especially the girls who go out and visibly we're Muslims with our scarves on. It shows us that we're not alone, and that these people, if anything was to happen, you guys would all stand beside us. For once, this is giving us a voice, and we're being supported more than anyone else. So thank you to everyone for coming out here. Thank you.
I am here to support my community and become one as a nation, to show everyone that we are one and united.
We'll never be defeated. Together, united, we'll never be defeated.
United, never be defeated.
Together, united.
Well, what a sight for sore eyes. Fraser Anning's worst nightmare. A multi-racial, anti-racist crowd yelling our lungs out on the streets of Melbourne. It's fantastic. And it's a perfect antidote not only for Fraser Anning, who's a fascist by the way, but also his enablers like Peter Dutton. I turned on the radio yesterday and Peter Dutton was he was sputtering and he was gruff and he was a bit rattled and he was very upset that people were making politics out of this issue. He said the words politics and politicisation and politics and political game and politicisation. You know, people haven't been buried yet. We know that people haven't been buried. We know that there's still mourning to do. Yeah. But we also know that politics is what got us into this situation. Yeah. And more to the point, we know that it's Peter Dutton's politics that got us into this situation. Yeah. And we're coming for him. Other speakers earlier on referenced John Howard and his racist dance with Pauline Hanson and how he praised Pauline Hanson back in the 90s as an exercise in free speech. We should remember that. They were pushing through the biggest attack on workers that this country had seen for 100 years, the work choices legislation. That stripped wages, that stripped conditions, that stripped union rights, that tried to roll back more than 100 years of struggle. And they needed a scapegoat. And I remember week after week after week, Bronwyn Bishop, Peter Reith, Peter Costello, oh, the well-spoken, small L Liberal, Peter Costello, banging the drum about Muslims all through that second half of 2005. And the result was, in December of 2005, when they put their work choices legislation through the Parliament, when we should have been out on the streets shutting the whole country down, instead we had a politically inspired, manufactured race riot on Cronulla Beach. You want the role of racism in pushing through a ruling class agenda, that's it. Distract them, give them someone to hate. That's what they did then, that's what they're doing now.
There was another man who splashed onto the scenes of social media, who tracked down Fraser Anning at an airport and told him what for. Please welcome Ali.
Supporting us Muslims, not just fighting against Islam, but fighting against racism as well. I believe everyone could see the frustration that I had at Fraser Anning at the airport. I still can't believe the amount of disrespect they had towards the people that have died due to the catastrophic event that placed in Christchurch. It's not just about the Muslims that died in Christchurch, it's about the fall of humanity as well, that has been portrayed in the last few days. A lot has been said today, and I really have nothing else to add besides God created us all the same body features, regardless of what colour our skin is. Beliefs of who we choose to believe. I would like to thank everyone that has come today from different beliefs and race. On behalf of Muslims, we thank you all. Today has honestly restored my faith back in humanity. Thank you once again. Let's say the shit cut.
What are you here for today? We're here for the rally against Fraser Anning. We're here with many people for support. We're here to support our own Muslim community, and everyone else is here to support us as well. It's been a fantastic turnout. We didn't honestly, personally, I didn't expect this, and it's so good to see the support of so many people. It's not even a majority of Muslims; it's a majority of everyone, and it's so eye-opening to see how how much we come together as a community instead of being divided. It's so heartwarming to see that with so many people, and we're really thankful as a community for the support, and it means a lot to us. Yeah.
Any racism in Melbourne?
Personally, I haven't experienced much racism. We come from a very multicultural community where I'm from, but I know of a lot of experiences from my friends and stuff who have, and we try to make that a learning experience for us all. We try to look at how we can come together more than let that divide us. Yeah.
Say about Christchurch, the situation in Christchurch?
Yeah, the situation in Christchurch, to me personally, it came somewhat as a shock, but somewhat we were expecting it to come to us. We were expecting for us to be the targets next, and when it finally came, it was worse than we expected. But honestly, it has brought us all together so much more than it has divided us, and that's what his aim was. But that he didn't succeed in his aim. He really didn't.
We'll be back. 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 We'll be back.
Thank you so much. Thank you.